Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm a psychic medium, intuitive guide, somatic coach, Reiki master teacher. And I'm so excited for today's conversation because we're going to be diving deep into one of the least talked about reasons that people are afraid of trusting their intuition. And that is it intuition or is it projection? And this is truly the ethical line that every practitioner must learn. And so many practitioners have such a high level of integrity, they're not even talking about this issue because, by definition, projection is a psychological coping mechanism designed to help us work through internal issues externally. And because it's a psychological phenomenon, many coaches, healers, and guides are reluctant to talk about it because we are not therapists. We are not psychologists. And so I want to also say I'm not a therapist or a psychologist either, but I do know that we have to have this conversation around what's intuition and what's projection, because when we can get really clear on which is what, then we can really create the beautiful transformations for clients and for ourselves that we really need. So what is projection? Well, like I've already said, it is where we take an internal issue and we see it externally so that we can heal it. So let's say, for example, maybe you have an issue with abandonment. Maybe you have abandonment wounds from childhood, and now every time that you see somebody, whether it's a friend or a client, maybe you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'm picking up on their abandonment wounds. And you talk about abandonment wounds. You see it everywhere. Well, if you're seeing abandonment wounds everywhere, chances are that's projection. Because anytime you start to see something everywhere, ask yourself, what are the chances I could actually be seeing this in all of my clients, all of my friends, all of my conversations? I'll tell you the chances, they're almost zero. That's one clue that you might be into projection. The other thing is when you're in a true state of using your intuition, you'll find that there's a level of emotional neutrality, which means you're not going to feel an emotional charge. You're not going to feel sad, angry, happy. You'll just feel neutral. When there's a projection, you'll notice that you have a stake in however the other person handles things. You'll notice yourself feeling slightly more controlling. You'll feel like, oh, they just have to do it this way. That's a really big clue that there's projection. So why would there be hesitation around working with intuition if you're fearing its projection? Well, because you have a high level of integrity and because you're afraid of causing real harm. And both of those things are noble. But here's the thing. Projection is one of the most common issues in early stage healing work. Whether you were a Reiki healer, a psychic medium, a breathwork facilitator, a somatic coach, or any other type of energy worker, coach, healer, or guide, unless or until you have done the work to discern what projection feels like in your system. So if you've ever had anyone project onto you in a healing session, you know how disorienting and violating it can feel, even when they mean really well. And so I want to make sure that you understand this is not an episode that's going to cause you to feel shame. Even if you've projected all over everybody, you aren't going to feel shame, because the truth is this will happen for most practitioners at some point, especially if you have a high level of intuition and especially if you have a high level of empathy. Awareness is what makes this a lot less likely to happen. And so we're going to talk about how to build the awareness between intuition and projection. So when a practitioner mistakes their own activation for intuitive truth about somebody else, one of the giveaways is going to be you have an emotional stake in how they handle something. If you feel yourself getting really worked up, that's not neutral. That is not a state we want you in as a healer, coach, or guide. You really do want to be in a neutral state, because it's not your role to tell people what to do, even if they ask you, especially if they ask you. And this is very, very true, especially if you have a high level of intuition, if you're giving readings, if people are asking you about health concerns and those type of things. It's really important for you to know that it's not ethical for you to tell them what to do. You can give them options. You can read energy. You can use your intuition to help them with discernment, but it's not our role as healers, coaches, guides to tell people what to do. So projection is not intuition. It is not psychic accuracy. It's not being powerful. Very commonly, when you're projecting, you will feel a sense of certainty. Like, I know for certain this is what you're experiencing. If you ever feel that, that is like waving the caution flag, because true intuition is not going to come through with that level of certainty. And even when I'm completely trusting my intuition, I'm completely trusting the information that's coming through, I don't know whether or not the person sitting across from me has the capacity to hear that as truth. And so if I were to approach everything that comes through me intuitively as doctrine, I could do real harm. And so can you. So anytime that you feel a sense of emotional charge, or you feel urgency, or you feel like it has to be this way, I'm certain this is what you're experiencing, that is a red flag of projection. Anytime that you're in an energy of diagnosing, ooh, caution. We don't diagnose. As healers, coaches, and guides, we don't diagnose. We don't diagnose mental things. We don't diagnose physical things. We will instead ask questions. We will pose invitations. And one of the big things that can happen when we're projecting onto someone, whether it's a client, a friend, a family member, is we're talking at people instead of with them. So if you notice that you're telling people how they feel, ooh, I would invite you to stop. Like, that is a red flag. That is a time to take a deep breath, come back to center, calm yourself, and start asking questions again. Intuition is very neutral. Now, if you're guiding a session, especially like if it's a reading or something, of course you're going to be doing a lot of talking. But if you're talking at someone, that is not intuition. Intuition is not making you do that. You're choosing to do that. And I would get really curious around why. Why are you doing that? Is it projection? Because it sure could be. It could also be that there's a part of you that feels like, I don't want to know if I'm wrong. I don't want to know if the client in front of me thinks they're not ready for this, so they can't see it. And so sometimes there'll be an over talking that happens with practitioners when they're worried that their intuition is going to be proven wrong. But here's the thing. The more work I've done on my own intuition, the more development I do, the more classes I take, the more trainings I get, the more I realize my intuition is pretty spot on. Now, will someone be able to see what I see when I see it? Maybe, maybe not. But I can't tell you the number of times someone will come back to me weeks, months, even years later, and they'll say, "Hey, do you remember that time you said XYZ?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I do." And they'll be like, "You were right. And here's how it unfolded." But we have to let go as practitioners, coaches, healers, and guides. We have to let go of needing to be certain and needing that external validation right now. There has to be a level of trust that we develop within ourselves that allows us to leave a session with a little bit of uncertainty, not really knowing if it's landed with the client or not. I mean, you will know if it's landed because you can say things like, well, give it some thought, feel into it, and then they'll go from there. But so here's the thing. I remember I was in a medium development course and we were exchanging sessions. And someone brand new to mediumship, I mean, brand new. She had intuitive abilities and she knew that. And she thought that she had some psychic and mediumship abilities, but they weren't developed at all. She'd never held anyone in a session, and I was her very first person that she held in session. And so she to begin to begin, she drew a card and she didn't clean her energy. She didn't discern between her energetic field or my energetic field. She drew a card, and I knew as soon as she drew the card, she was projecting because the card didn't resonate with me at all. It was like not true for me at all. And this person was very well intentioned, a heart of gold. But she began to share information about next steps that I should take and made them as fact. You should do this. This is the way. This is the only way. And, by the time that practice session ended, I was exhausted because I was feeling her projection so much on me that even though I'm pretty solid in myself and very well developed with my psychic and mediumship abilities, I was exhausted by the energetic configuration that she was trying to form on me. And I'm somebody with really pretty strong energy. And it was exhausting. So imagine what this could do to somebody that didn't have the energetic sovereignty that I have. It could cause real harm. It could lead people down the wrong path. Now, obviously, this person was very excited to begin using their gifts. And obviously this person was practicing, but the impact can't be ignored. The impact that it had on me was I was confused about my next steps. I felt a loss of safety because I didn't feel seen or acknowledged or recognized as a sovereign being with choice. I didn't feel supported. I felt unseen. And I felt myself actually going back into old people pleasing ways because I was ending up taking care of this practitioner. That was not intuition. That was her projecting. It was unfiltered information without attuning to my system. It was not coming through neutrally, and it was not actually based on consent. There was no asking, could I draw a card for you? There was no tuning into my energy. And so when that happened, it really gave me language around the importance about not projecting on people. And so I was really grateful for the experience, even though it was kind of hard on me. So when we have training without intuition, without really explaining to people what it means if we're in projection, we can cause some harm. So let me break it down. There's three basic reasons that this can happen. One is the training without intuition. So if you've been trained on modalities or the how, but maybe you haven't been trained on the nuances or how information comes through for you, it's really easy to mistake how somebody else is feeling for how you're feeling. So everybody's intuition comes in a different way. There are some maps that we use, like we talk about the six clairs, we talk about the empath tracks. Those are simply maps that we use to help us find language that's shared so that when we talk about intuition, we can sort of say, oh, yes, that comes in for me that way too. But the truth is, there's so many different nuances and combinations of intuition that until we take the time to really get clear around how intuition is speaking to each of us individually, it's easy to miss. So, learning how your intuition comes in is essential so that you can differentiate between a projection and an intuitive hit. Because if this person had that nuance, she probably would have been able to feel like, oh, yeah, this is me. I'm projecting me all over Brenda. So, number two, the fear of getting it wrong. When you're a brand new practitioner or energy healer or coach or guide, you want external validation. I get it. I wanted that too. But the truth is, in this line of work, there's not